Why is Africa so goddamn poor? Me being the social justice god that I am, have asked myself this many times, thinking, why are things so bad there? And what can we do? Well, the answer might surprise you. Now, to understand Africa's situation, we first have to look at its geography. Now, the first thing that historically fucked over Africa right from the very beginning is the Sahara Desert. Now, you look at this big boy right here. In the past, it could take months to travel this harsh landscape, essentially locking off Africa from the advancements and trade of the rest of the world. Geographically, most people don't even know how just absolutely massive Africa is either. You could fit 3 United States in Africa and still have room for some Spaniards. You could even fit one of those United States in the Sahara Desert. Now imagine trying to travel the bottom to the top of the United States on camelback, and then you made it a desert, and then you threw in pirates, and then you know what, you just said fuck it, throw in malaria in there. Other geographical hurdles were the continent's lack of domesticable animals and lack of land capable of growing agriculture such as wheat or rice. Now trust me, if Africans could have rode rhinos to battle and raised and eat giraffe meat, we'd all be speaking Swahili right now. On top of everything, the continent has very few rivers and even less that are navigable, which some would consider essential for a civilization to develop. But technology has helped with many of these hurdles. So what's holding back Africa today? For one, their borders. Africa has kept most of its colonial borders that were arbitrarily drawn by some fat inbred European kings with no consideration for the history, geography, culture, or tribal relations of the region. This caused a lack of stability in the region and plenty of civil wars. You can tell that these are arbitrary borders by just looking at a map. Real borders are not straight lines like this. Actually, damn, that boy kinda fresh. Hey man, who cut you like that? A good example of this is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is neither democratic or a republic. The country can be divided into 200 ethnic groups with several hundred languages. When the ruthless Belgians left, never really thought I'd say that, the country immediately fell into a cycle of ethnic civil wars, a conflict that has claimed the lives of more than 6 million people, as underreported these conflicts are. So we can see that many of the continent's problems can be attributed to just plain old bad luck. What's even worse is that the world's attempts to help Africa through aid have either failed or in some cases made things even worse. To understand why, you must realize that there are 3 types of aid administered in Africa. Emergency aid, which is given during a disaster or war. Charity aid, which is an aid administered by NGOs and non-government associated agencies, and government aid, which is money given straight to the rulers of the country. Now altogether in the past few decades, Africa has received over $1 trillion in aid, with most of it being government aid. So how come the region hasn't become economically stable? Where is this money going? Well, usually to the pockets of powerful dictators and officials. Since African countries haven't had the time to build good institutions and accountable governance, corruption is rife. What's worse is that this can create conflict, since these government positions become so valuable that wars for power between rival groups are considerably increased. So you might think the solution is charity and NGO aid. But let me stop you before you send money to Oprah. Because these celebrity initiatives to just send free stuff to Africa can actually hurt more than they help. And let me give you an example. Let's say that a country has a malaria problem. So out of the goodness of your heart, you send money to help send 100,000 free mosquito nets to the people. The problem is that there are already mosquito net producers in the country, so instead of buying from them, you just sent 100,000 American-produced nets into the economy. This effectively puts them out of business, and they all lose their jobs. Now, you fast forward 5 years later. All the nets you made have either broken down or are unusable, and the people locally producing them have all moved on, meaning that no nets can be bought in the area. So you have effectively made the country reliant on your handout. But you've already moved on to the next problem and patted yourself on the back for a job well done. When Tom sends a shoe to Africa for everyone bought, that's one shoe not being purchased from a local shoe producer and building that country's economy. But probably the worst thing that donor countries have done is go into Africa assuming they know what's best for the people without actually asking them what they want. So I'll leave you with a story by Ernesto Ceroli that encapsulates this problem.
And of course, everything in Africa grew beautifully, and we had these magnificent tomatoes. In Italy, a tomato will grow to this size, in Zambia, to this size. And we could not believe. And we were telling the Zambians, look how easy agriculture is. When the tomatoes were nice and ripe and red, overnight, some 200 hippos came out from the river, and they ate everything. And we said to the Zambians, my God, the hippos! And the Zambia said, yes, that's why we have no agriculture here. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked.